company remote arm two-way communications in lift. The company is SSE from Italy. So,
SET.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning. My name is Samuele Gasparrini from SET company. I don't know, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. I am the product manager of the company that is focused on emergency system for lift. And today I would like to present you the new regulation of the elevators in terms of emergency system. That is the 81/28/2022. So before to start, I would like to know how, have you ever seen before this regulation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Probably the previous version, the 2006, it was the first version. Now, there was some revision during the time. The first one was in 2018, second one 2019, and now we move it to 2022. Probably this will be the regulation that will withdraw the previous one. So starting from the next year, it will be mandatory to be compliant from the new lift to this regulation. Briefly introduction about the company. So the company was focused was founded in 1983 for production of PAVX and equipment for housing, for communication purpose. And with the publish of the regulation 81/28/2003, the company started the new division, the LiftCom division. And we were the first company in Italy to release an emergency system that be compliant to this regulation. So the LP name was defined. So we started with the LP L300, ST56, and so on. And some years later, we released the first full wireless system for elevators. So it was the first emergency system that allowed to connect each element using a proprietary wireless protocol. So whereas using the existing system, you usually have at least 2 wires to connect the speaker unit into the car with the main unit in the mushroom. In 2008, SET released the first system that works completely wireless. Then we moved to remote monitoring solution, so exploiting the same media, 2G or 3G or 4G technology, we are able to remotely check the real-time status of the emergency system and also the elevator. So we release products that allow you to remote monitoring the elevator status. And finally, in 2019, we released the 2-wire system. So just 2 wires to connect the speaker unit into the car to the main unit in the mushroom. So I jump directly to the new regulation, the 2022, that will be at least withdraw the previous regulation, the 2019, in June 2024. And if you open the corresponding webpage into the European Commission, you will see that is expected that this regulation will be present into the official journal of the European Union. So it means that when it will be published there, it will overcome all the previous version of the regulation. if you have any question, please interrupt me at any time, or if you have any question. So right now, it is not already published, but probably it will be at the end of this year or at the beginning of 2023. And so starting from them, it will be mandatory to comply for the new elevators to this regulation. So these are the differences, the main differences between the previous version, the 2006, and the last version. So the first point is just an update in terms of references into the regulation. So there will be any more references to 81.1 and 2. It will move directly to the 81.20. And the other point instead are changes in terms of functionality. So are technical differences between new device and the previous one. In particular, it's mandatory right now to have locally an information about the status of the battery. So the technician needs to know which is the battery level of the unit when he performs the check of the unit. And we will see it later, but the new regulation define also which is the audio level of the distress message into the car when the entrapped person press the push button. So this level must be into a specific range. And another important difference with the previous regulation is that when the emergency system fails to make the task call to the call center, you know, every at least 72 hours, 3 days, the unit needs to perform a task call to a dedicated number in order to check that the line is working properly. If the unit, for any reason, is not able to have a connection with the call center, for example, I don't know, there is a problem with the media, so the fixed line or the mobile network, so the unit is not able to have a successful connection to the call center, the unit has to indicate locally inside the car this event. And it performs this feedback, starting flashing in opposition the 2 pictograms available in the COP, I mean the green and the yellow one. We will see it later, this behavior. And so basically this is the main differences between the 2006 regulation and 2018/19. The 2020, the last regulation, take all these improvements and make some changes in terms of just description of the functionality. So between the, what I mean is, between the 2019 and 2020, there are no technical differences. Okay. Yes, as I said, the main difference is that some definition into the 2022 are not anymore present. So there is no the definition of the owner, the installer, and the manufacturer of the alarm system. And there is also this phrase that states that the technician, if you want to access the emergency system, need to access it using an activation key. Probably this phrase will be modified in the future because it's not quite clear. Basically, it means that the emergency system must not be able to be accessed to anyone. So only the technician must be able to access the unit, program it, etc. But they state this using this phrase, use activation key, use key. So it's not quite clear. And this is why probably in the future it will be modified. Okay. So we going deep in detail in the differences with the 2006 regulation. As I said, the unit need to locally inform the technician when there is a fault of the backup batteries, if the emergency system has a backup batteries. Indeed, it states when a power supply is used and when it's used the backup batteries, the unit needs to check the quality of the battery and inform the technician if there is a problem with it. And the unit must be also able to inform the call center or the number that manages the technical call that there is a problem of the power supply or the batteries. And yes, the unit has this functionality, so you are able to program into the unit the destination number for this notification. And the regulation also define now the symbol of the pictograms. So in the past, it was possible to use any symbol for the green and the yellow LEDs. Right now, instead, with the new regulation, it's mandatory to be able to use these two symbols. So you have two options for the pictograms, the yellow pictograms, instead one single symbol for the green pictograms. And the new regulation also define which is the sequence to activate the pictograms. So with the previous regulation, the 2006, there was any description of the behaviors. So any emergency phone manufacturer decide the behavior of the green and the yellow LED. Instead, with this new regulation, it states that when you press the emergency button, the unit will switch on directly the yellow LED. And then, when there is a direct two-way communication with the call center, with the receiver of the alarm call, the green LED will lit on and stay lit on until the emergency call will be closed by the call center. So this diagram just explains the correct behavior of the two pictograms. And yeah, this is the other requirements of the regulation. So when you press the alarm button to the car, the distress message that the interrupted person listen that usually say, please keep calm, the emergency call is forwarded to the call center, need to be between that range. And the regulations state that the unit must be able to adjust the volume in order to follow that range. I bet that no one will check this volume level, I'm quite sure, but the regulations state that it must be between this range. And another little difference is with the 2006 regulation is that the minimum time pressure of the push button is 3 seconds. So in the past there was no, well, it was 2 seconds, now it is moved to 3 seconds. And another difference is, with the previous regulation, is the possibility for the technician to force the emergency system to make the call, also if the filter is active. So if, for example, the door are open or the car is moving, the filter is high, so it means that the emergency system is not able to make the call, because the regulations state that you must not be able to forward the call if the filter is high. So you can press for 1 hour the button and the call will not forward it. Instead, now with the new regulation, if you press for more than 30 seconds the alarm button, also if the door are open, the emergency system must forward the call. And finally, the regulation also define that for the task call, so the 72 hours operation that the unit performed to check that the line is working correctly. The media used by this unit must be the same as the one used for the emergency call. So it means that, for example, if you make the emergency call using the 2G network, the mobile network in general, you cannot perform the task call using the fixed line. You must use the same media that for the task call used for the emergency call. Finally, this is the let me show you. Okay, so this is the behavior that you will find into the car if the unit will fail to perform a task call. So you will see that the green LED and the yellow LED start blinking in position. So be ready to inform the owner of the lift that if he sees something of this, I can say it's normal. And what you should do is to, for example, make an emergency call, forcing an emergency call in order to allow to the unit to test the line. And the regulation also states that must be present an activation, an alarm initiation device that is the alarm push button in every area of the shaft where there is the possible risk of the entrapment for the technicians. This is another point that was not present in the previous regulation. And finally, the regulation also define the shape of and the color of the alarm button. So it must comply to these two symbols. And finally, the regulation also shows a checklist that the technician has to perform locally in order to check that the alarm system is working properly. So he needs to follow this checklist when he performs the maintenance of the lift, and he check every single functionality of the emergency system. Okay, so for the regulation in terms of differences between 2022 and 2018 for 6, this is the main differences. So if you have any question, okay.
There is no range in the, for the GSM model or the 3G network. What can you do, or especially in the pit or on the car roof?
The regulation state that the hypothesis that the line is always present. If there is present, but in real no. So the idea is to if you install the emergency system with a built-in GSM signal into the top of the car, and the car moves down to -1, -2, and there is no signal, you need to move the emergency system in an area where there is the signal. So you can install an emergency system that works with the fixed line, for example, and using the 2 wires in the traveling cable, you install a universal gateway on the top of the shaft, where usually you have the signal. This is the advice that I can give you, because on the top of the shaft, usually the signal is quite good, and there is no any issues in terms of low signal. But also if in that case there is low signal, the regulation state that the unit has to inform the people that use the lift that the unit is not able to make the task call. So probably compared to the previous regulation, at every, I can say, 3 days, we can have a feedback from the lift that there is a problem with the line. Instead, in the past, was the job of the call center to check that that specific unit performed correctly the task call.
Is there some due date for upgrading the old unit to this regulation?
Depends on the local regulation. For example, in Italy, there was a local regulation that defined that the 8180, that is the regulation for the modernization, apply to existing lift starting from a specific date. So we need to check if in Croatia or other country there is a corresponding one. But yeah, this is mandatory for new elevators, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, for as I said before, the company is focused on design of software and hardware of all the emergency system, and if you have a specific request or demand for application, you can just ask us, and we can for sure define a customized version of emergency system that fit your requirements. And in particular in Croatia, we collaborate with Lift Alarm, so if you have any question, you can also ask to them. Okay.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.